All right, welcome to the October 7th, 2024 study session of Livonia City Council. Would everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by the Honorable Council Member Rob Donovic.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Councilman Donovic. This meeting sets the agenda for the 2003 regular meeting, which is a voting meeting that will take place on, believe it or not, Monday, October 21st, where tonight's items will be officially voted on. I will note that we have Councilwoman Toy is absent, and other than that, we have 6 here. I'm going to jump right into audience communication. Council set aside 30 minutes for items that are not on the agenda. If you'd make your way to the podium, name and address, 3 minutes. The floor is yours.
Hi, I'm Cindy Fleming. I live on Woodring, and hi again. Thank you, Council. I just wanted to say that to finish what I came here to say was most notably Alfred Noble Library has been permanently closed, and it was slotted for demolition by the current mayor until public outcry became loud enough to pause that destruction. In February of 2022, when I first heard of the city's plan to demolish the Alfred Noble building, my first gut reaction was that if this library gets demoed, the whole Sheldon Park and its amenities were at risk too. It was my hunch that developers hungry for land to build homes and condos in the city would do, say, or pay just about anything to get their hands on this city property. And everything that I've come to learn since then seems to reinforce my first reaction. Something stinks in this city, and it's not something the new 96-gallon trash bins can fix. I came here tonight to humbly ask those present in the audience and those citizens who will watch this meeting on the video to help the newly formed nonprofit Save Alfred Noble by attending next Wednesday's October 16th Council Committee of the Whole meeting at 6 p.m. It'll be held at the Sheldon Park gazebo behind the Alfred Noble Library building. We need to save, restore, and repurpose this building and the city's commitment to protect this asset so that it once again can be the cultural and community hub it once was.
Thank you. Anybody? Hello, hello.
Good evening, Kathleen McIntyre, Fairway Street, Livonia. Mr. President and Council, I found your slide presentation to be very interesting on problems that aren't addressed. As we all know, issues can take time, but there can also be patterns of non-response. And in light of that, I saw on a blogger's Facebook page today, a blogger who blogs about Livonia, that an employee of the mayor's office went over and retrieved a dead deer from a resident's property after hours and took it to the curb. And I thought I remembered discussions. I know we had them when I was on council, but I thought I remembered recent discussions about our policies on the removal of dead animals from private property. And I found the Fox 2 News story from January that talked about Birmingham, but also talked about Livonia, and had the memo that was circulated, I believe, from the mayor's office stating that we do not remove deceased animals from private property for a number of reasons, resources, legal liability. So it's just interesting to me that we have the mayor's office engaging in work that as a city, we've publicly said we don't do, but yet there's lack of follow-up on other things that are clearly within the purview of the city to take care of. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other audience communication? Seeing none, I'm going to jump into council announcements. Council, do we have anything for the study? Seeing none, we're going to jump right into the study. New business, which is item number 1, is a request to waive the sidewalk requirement This is, comes to us from James Thorne for the newly constructed home at 16147 Henry Ruff. I'm assuming this is Mr. Tormina? No? Oh, Mr. Zalinsik.
Yes, Council President, council members. As you know, we received a letter from the petitioner here requesting that the sidewalk waiver be addressed. We have no issues with his recommendation, or our recommendation to have the sidewalk waived is there's no sidewalks in the neighborhood. You got our letter that was provided to you back on, a while back in September, from his letter on September 11th.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Mr. Thorne, I got Councilman Donovan, and then I'll go to Councilman Jolly. Mr. Thorne, thanks for being here. I'm going to give it to Councilman Jolly first. If he's got questions, we'll ask you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, sir. How you doing?
Doing well.
Good, good. So I drove by and there's no sidewalks on that side of Henry Ruff, right?
Correct.
Yeah, it's a nice new build. I don't see any issues with it. There's no sidewalks over there. Looks like a beautiful home you guys are doing there.
Thank you.
I know there's like a little ditch or culvert, which make it really difficult to get sidewalks. And then it was really close proximity to a bend in the road as well to the north. So I don't see why we would require a sidewalk. So I'm completely okay with offering this, approving for consent. There's no objection from my colleagues.
We got an approving for consent. Anything further from council? Seeing none. Unless you want to speak, you've got an approving on consent, which I will caution you just to take that and have a good night. And you can show up at the next meeting, but your matter is all but assured to be approved.
Sounds good. I appreciate it all.
Thanks for coming in and hanging out with us. Moving on, let me go to the audience. Any issues with the sidewalk requirement waiving that from the audience? Nope. All right, moving on to item number 2 is a request to authorize payment to Election Source. This comes to us from the Office of the City Clerk for the preparation of test ballots and testing of all election equipment by approved state vendor for the state primary election held August 6, 2024 from budgeted funds. Madam Clerk, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President McCullough. This is a formality as far as this is a company that we hire to do all of our testing of our election equipment. We've been using them for years. They are approved by the state of Michigan and the Bureau of Elections, and they come on site. They test all of our equipment, which was 45 ballot styles for all of our precinct tabulators, all of our voter-assisted terminals, all of our counting board, scanning materials, and then also all of the equipment that's used at our early voting site. So it is very costly, it's very time-consuming. It takes them about 2 days, probably about 20 individuals come in. So this is, because of that, the cost of it was $25,735.50. So we are requesting your permission to pay that invoice.
Awesome. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council?
I'll offer an approving for consent.
We have an approving for consent. Anything further from council? Seeing none, anything from the audience? Well, you have to probably come back and hang out with us that meeting, but your item is on consent.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 3 is a request for council approval on a proposed lot split. This comes to us from the Department of Assessment for the parcels located north of 7 Mile Road and on the east side of Newburgh Road in Section 5. Addresses are 19282, 19316, 19358 Newburgh Road, and to waive the minimum lot width for proposed parcel F. Mr. Tormina.
Thank you. This is a property that council is familiar with. Earlier this year, the property was rezoned from RUF to N2 neighborhood. Subsequent lot split proposed 6 single-family residences. They were each shown to be 70 feet in width, but the north parcel, which is shown on this plan as parcel F, included land from an adjoining property. That land is no longer available, so this is a revision to that split. Still proposes 70-foot wide lots for parcels A through E, but parcel F, the northerly lot, would measure 61 feet. And thus requires your approval to modify the minimum lot width requirement, which is 70 feet. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tormina. Council?
Mr. President.
Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I actually walked this property today with my dog. I happen to live in the neighborhood that this backs up to. And I thought about, well, could we take the others and, trim a couple feet off each and try to, but then that would just be a mess. There's really only, it's going to be 61.1 feet, so we're looking at like an 8.9 foot deficit there. It doesn't, when you mark it off, it doesn't look deficient. Typically, I wouldn't, want to minimize this issue, but in this case, I think this should be fine, and I'll be in support of this. I think we need a supermajority, though, for this, so I will offer an approving on the regular.
Thank you. We've improved it on the regular. Councilman Donovan.
Thanks, Mr. President. I'll note too, it's kind of a complex situation with an adjoining owners to the north also building single-family homes. So you'll have harmony between single-family homes to the north and these single-family homes, but they're two different builders. And I would like to note that you're still going to build essentially the same home regardless of the deficiency of that 8 or so feet. You're not going to add anything too crazy. I know that the petitioner and developers here this evening as well. So I'd be okay with it, and I think it makes sense. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Good evening. Do you want to
Good
say
evening,
some stuff
everyone.
for the record? It's great to see you, as
Yes.
always.
It's always good to see you guys. Enrico Suave, 37771 7 Mile, Livonia. Based upon the introduction, I don't think there's a lot of information needed for me tonight. I do apologize for having to come back here in order to get this development off the road, but some things are out of my control as people are different.
We just like to hang out with you a little bit more, so it's good to see you once in a while. As always, you guys do a great business and product in the city, so.
The homes are going to be uniform. They're not going to be a special size house for this lot. They're all going to be compatible with either a 61-foot lot or 70-foot lot. They are still going to have sidewalks in front of them, so when everything's said and done with, that 8.9 feet is going to be negligible.
Awesome. All right, Councilwoman Budzinski.
So how will that deficit reflect in the property? Is it a smaller driveway? Is it smaller green space in the front? I mean, personally, I get very frustrated to see large homes on small square lots, especially if they're not conforming with the surrounding area. These lots are already smaller than the homes behind it in the older neighborhood. I understand it's a main road. There's several that are being built, and so it is going to be its own separate thing. But for this smaller lot now, which is, kind of, again, coming down from where it was before, how is it going to look different? Because we don't have house models in the thing in terms of.
Correct. Honestly, the only way you would actually notice it is probably bring a tape measure and find the lot corners and pacing off the side yards between each house up there, each 6 houses, because mostly all of our models that we build standard, they're not, unless a customer comes to us with a custom-built plan, they're from our entourage of plans, and which all fit 60-foot lots. The ones we did, Grand Reserve, Heritage Square, Emerson Oaks, they're pretty much the same house plan, just customized a little bit different on the elevations to fit different neighborhoods throughout the city. So they're going to be the same houses, probably around 2,400 square feet, front entry garage. So you wouldn't know there's a difference, that lot's smaller than the one next door, unless you probably went up there to tape measure.
Okay, so home size compares to Emerson Estates and Heritage Square then?
Heritage Square and Grand Reserve too, which is just wrapping up over there on Linden and Newburgh.
And how wide are those lots, just mentally, for like
The lots or the house?
the lot sizes for those?
Those are all 60-foot lots, and I do believe there are some 52-foot lots
So
at
these would be
Emerson.
more green space to the
Correct.
same size house?
It's just the side yard is always gonna change. The product's not gonna be any different.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
Anything further from council? Well, we have an approving for regular, which is our supermajority, and I'm going to go to the audience. Any audience issues or communications on this item? Seeing none. We'll see you back on October 21st.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 4 is an award of contract. Comes to us from the Civil Service Department for the Employee Assistance Program for the period of December 1st, 2024 to November 30th, 2026 from budgeted funds. Good evening.
Good evening, council. It's good to see all of you.
You too.
My predecessor Denise worked really hard to bring this benefit to the city and to make sure that it was a benefit that our employees would find useful. We sure have found it useful. Our utilization rate hovers a little over 30%, which is 20% greater than they see across the rest of their book of business. It costs us, with this new 2-year contract, about $30 per year per employee, but that also extends to their family. So it's the kind of program that has a resolution-based model. It's not, you only get 5 sessions with a counselor. They do a lot more than counseling as well. They can give someone a little background information on a lot of different things. I feel like it's a really great benefit, and I hope that you all, if you have questions, I'm here to answer them, but I'd love to see this be renewed for us.
Thank you, Council. Vice President.
Thank you. I actually jumped the gun and answered my questions because I was going to ask what the numbers are for utilization, and it sounds like they're great.
I can add a little color to that. When we first launched it, we jumped right out of the gate with high usage. So they expect about a 12% utilization in the first year, and we were well above that for every month that we have had this service. Another thing I'd like to add is that it's completely confidential. Nobody here, nobody in the city can find out what anyone has called for. We get a very broad strokes, high-level report that lets us know that we've had, this many new calls, this many, they kind of give us a broad spectrum of what people may have called about, whether it's financial counseling or mental wellness. We really don't get any details, so I hope that our employees continue to feel comfortable using the service.
That's terrific. And then, I guess, it sounds like the employees are aware, but I'm sure that you guys have a way of communicating this out to the employees as well.
We do. We try to push it by hanging posters in all of our buildings, including in our elevators here at City Hall, and we keep it on our monthly screensaver as well as different email blasts.
Sounds great. All right, I'd offer an approving on consent.
Perfect. We have an approving on consent. Council, anything further on this item? Anything from the audience? You got an approving on consent. It's good to see you.
Awesome. Thank you, Vice President. Take care, everyone.
All right, moving on to item number 5, which is a request to amend Council Resolution 83-24. Comes to us from the Division of Police to reflect a change in the vehicle to be purchased due to an unavailability of the vehicle previously approved in the resolution. Chief, how are you?
Good, Mr. President. How are you tonight?
Good, good. So tell us a little about, what you're changing this out to.
Yes, this is one of 2 items. We have a vehicle that we put on order way back in the beginning of the year when the council approved our annual purchases of vehicles. And of those 9, we have 1 that is not even going to be made this year. So we're asking to change that vehicle from a Ford Edge to a Dodge Durango, which is kind of a step up in cost, but the dealership went just a little bit below the contract pricing, is going to give us the same price. So it's just a simple matter of amending the resolution.
Sounds good. Council? Councilwoman Mudzinski?
Yeah, sounds good. So I'd like to put this on consent if there's no objection.
We're going to approve it on consent. Anything further from council? Anything from the audience? All right. You got one. Let's move on to item number 2. It's a request to amend Council Resolution 83-24. Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on. I did scrap that one. Item number 6 is a request to waive the sealed bid process and authorize the purchase of 1 marked replacement police vehicle utilizing the State of Michigan cooperative bid pricing. Comes to us from the Division of Police to replace a vehicle damaged beyond repair from budgeted funds. The floor is yours, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. President. Once again, this is a vehicle that was damaged in a traffic crash. As you know, we have over 150 vehicles, and we have very few accidents, but we do have them on occasion. This particular Tahoe was totaled by MMRMA, our insurance provider, and they gave us a settlement. And with those funds and some funds left over from the budget, we have enough to replace it with a new Tahoe.
Awesome. Councilman Donovic.
Mr. President, all seems good here. Unfortunately, these things happen, but our police officers do a great job, so I'd like to offer an approving on consent with no objection from my colleagues.
Sounds good. Anything else from council? Anything from the audience? You went 2 for 2. Thanks for
you.
hanging out with us.
Have a good night.
You too. Moving on to item number, oh, you know what? Did I go to the audience? Yes, I did. I'm sorry. The Red Bull's wearing off. Item number 7 is award of contract. Comes to us from the Department of Public Works and Livonia Police for upgrades of the fueling station at both the Department of Public Works and Livonia Police Yards from budgeted funds. Mr. Moore, how are you?
Good, Council. Doug Moore with the Department of Public Works. Council, the first item I have before you tonight is the replacement of the DPW and police station fueling islands. This is a joint venture between the 2 of us. We're both contributing funds towards doing this. We used RFBs that were posted on Mitten from Bloomfield Hills and Troy as guides for project development. We did originally put this out on Mitten and held a pre-bid meeting. Afterwards, Gus Kanda, our purchasing manager, found that Oscar W. Larson is a Sourcewell approved contract for these types of things. Oscar Larson has been doing work with our systems for the last several years because of the problems we're having. We're having significant problems with our current system that was made in the 80s, and we need to replace it. Both the LPD and DPW fuel islands will be completely removed with the exception of the gas canopies and the columns holding the canopies. Everything above ground will be taken out. The tanks are in good shape, so we don't have to do that. The cost for DPW is more than LPD because of the underground technology that has to go into it. And currently, the removal of the water and sewer building at DPW is being held up because all the technology that runs the current gas pump comes out of that building. The new stuff will be coming out of building maintenance and a shed that'll be put closer to the DPW island.
Sounds good. Vice President?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple questions, Mr. Moore, thank you. First of all, the golf course, Whispering Willows, don't they have tanks too? We're just
They
not including
do,
them?
and we're gonna deal with those next year.
Okay,
We wanted to get through the DPW and LPD projects are gonna be significantly more entailed. And I think with Whispering Willows, we're looking at abandoning the tanks and moving to above-ground storage.
okay, I just wanted to make sure on that. And then, it looked like the split, DPW was about 209,000, I'm just rounding off, and LPD would be about 140K.
Yes.
Is this something that's imminent, I guess, if there's the possible relocation of police headquarters? Is this something we'd want to do right this minute? Is this where, I'm just trying to be prudent on
This,
before we go into
that
this.
question was asked, and the fueling station is probably gonna stay in the same position, bless you, because of the fire department.
Okay.
Because the fire department fuels out of there too.
Okay, and that was actually my backup question, would that make sense to keep it there? But I just wanted
Yes.
to double check. All right, that answers my questions. I'd be happy to offer an approving on consent.
All right, we have an approving on consent. Anything further from council? Anything from the audience? Got an approving on consent. Moving on to number 8 is a request to accept proposals for contracted snow removal service for major storms. Comes to us from Public Service Division for snowfall over 4 inches for a 3-year period, 2024 and 25, 25 and 26, and 26 and 27 from budgeted funds. Mr. Moore.
And unfortunately, this lake leaf pickup is gonna happen sooner or later. As I was driving here tonight, I realized how far south the sun had moved and is going to move further. It's a 3-year contract. We sent letters out to the companies around here that are big enough. B&V and Great Lakes Contracting Solution both responded. Nagel hasn't responded in several years. They haven't been a vendor in about 10. We have pricing from both Great Lakes and B&V, and we would like council to approve. I'm sorry, it's Stante and B&V. Anyway. We would like council to approve the contracts with them for 3 years. They do a really good job for us.
Council? Oh, Councilman Morgan.
Yeah, I'd like to offer an approving, let's do that on consent.
All right, we have an approving on consent. Anything else, council? Anything from the audience? That item is approved on consent. We're going to move on to item number 9 is an award of contract. Comes to us from the Department of Public Works for the 2024 through 2027 calendar year requirements for the portable toilet program to provide portable toilet service from budgeted funds. Mr. Moore.
This is a 4-year contract for the Porta-Johns in the parks, special events. We asked for pricing on Minton website on August 5th. The bids were opened on September 3rd. We had 2 bidders, Jay's Septic and United Rental. We asked pricing at 23 parks, 5 fixed sites, 2 golf courses, and many special events. And depending on the usage would depend on the number that were sent out. United Rental was the low bidder on the project for a total of $128,466.66 for the 4-year program. We have the first year pricing, and then for the second, third, and fourth years, there's a 4% increase. So we would like council to approve United Rental and then also approve Jay's Septic as the backup vendor in case there's issues with United over the years.
Sounds good. Vice President?
Thank you. Mr. Moore, when I was looking at this packet, I noticed it was for a combination of regular units plus handicap units.
Yes.
I've done some research on this because I've received countless emails from residents, and turns out the handicap units we've been getting the last few years are not fully ADA compliant. I know the handicap ones are for help with people that have some limitations, but they're not necessarily wheelchair accessible. I was hoping that we could get some ADA compliant units. Those are the ones that have enough room to do a 360-degree turn with a wheelchair. And they also have like a magnetic lock, they have braille, you know, the things that would make them ADA. So I would like to see maybe an updated bid,
Sure.
just including that, if I could. And I'd be happy to offer this as an approval on the regular, just so you could throw in an
Okay.
ADA. That would be great.
All right, we have an approving on the regular. Councilwoman Budzinski.
Yeah, and I just want to concur with Councilwoman Tashnik and say that I think that that's an important addition, especially to some of our larger parks that don't have bathroom facilities.
All right, anything else from council? Anything from the audience? All right, so we have an approving on regular for item number 9. We're going to move on to item number 10 is a request for authorization to purchase and upfit one Freightliner MT55 step van through the My Deal state bid process. Comes to us again from the Department of Public Works to replace the current frontline water repair van from budgeted funds. Mr. Moore.
So this one will be for the water and sewer section. You may be familiar with it. It looks like a FedEx, UPS, one of those big bread panel trucks. It'll be outfitted with a generator, air compressor, shelving units, and areas to hold clothing, PPE, hand equipment, and tools. The van is being purchased from budgeted funds through My Deal pricing using VersaLift out of, it's East Side, as the approved vendor. And the cost totally outfitted is $269,526. The old unit will be disposed of through the auction process.
Awesome. Council? Vice President?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This one just seems like a no-brainer when I read about it, so I'll be after approving on consent for this one.
All right, we have an approving on consent. Anything else from council? Anything from the audience? Moving on to the final item, number 11.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Moore. Have a good night.
You too, thanks.
Item number 11 is an award of contract using the QBS, the Qualified Base Selection Process. Comes to us from the Engineering Division for the Traffic Signal Optimization Project along Newburgh Road Corridor from budgeted funds. Mr. Zielinski, take us home.
Good evening, President and council members. As you know, we were able to get the CRP grant from SEMCOG with the assistance of OHM. They're designing the signals at 7 Mile, at Plymouth Road, at Newburgh, Hines at Newburgh, and then we have at Churchill and Ann Arbor Trail. So there's 5 signals we're designing. With that, we wanted to go out and the other component was do interconnect between the signals. Typically, they're about $5,000 a piece to put an antenna on the traffic signal one that's been modernized or the other existing signals that have been upgraded to interconnect with each other so that way we can have a corridor where you're not stopping all the time. So the engineering department put the QBS requested from 4 firms that are MDOT qualified to do this work. We received those. There's a 3-panel person panel that reviewed the 3 proposals. We are recommending Hubble, Roth, and Clark for this work in the amount of $99,990.38. Again, look forward to them working through the fall to get the data, provide the information, coordinate with OHM as they design the Newburgh Road corridor also from Ann Arbor Trail to Plymouth Road for reconstruct next year. We had federal funds, just like we just completed West Chicago. That was opened up just last Friday. Same thing, we're getting 81.85% of that project paid for. We look for OHM to do the construction engineering when that gets bid out. We heard that Dan's Excavating got that contract with Mark Anthony, who was the subcontractor. There'll be the subcontractor that just did West Chicago in an amount of $21.5 million, but it's unofficial yet. So with that, looking for your approval for HRC to perform this work and then have the contract proposal signed and move forward and hopefully, again, coordinate all the efforts to make the Newburgh Road corridor complete from 8 Mile down to Ford Road, including Westland.
Sounds great. Councilman Donovan.
Thanks, Mr. President. Thanks, Mr. Zielinski. Appreciate it. So again, reading the packet, SEMCOG is going to reimburse roughly, you think 80%?
We're hoping 80%. It may not take all 99,000. Again, It just depends on how much effort there's involved with this, but the idea is in the future, this course model, this traffic model will be given to Wayne County. So if there's an effort in the future, if we have another road construction on 96 or 275, and they use Newburgh Road, we can help use progression to help retime the lights if necessary.
That's awesome. It's interesting how much congestion, traffic signals that are not in sync with one another and talking to each other can cause. All seems good to me. I'd like to offer an approving on consent if there's no objection from my colleagues.
Sounds good. Anything further from council? Anything from the audience?
Cindy Fleming again. I just wanted to make you aware that this item was left off the agenda, the written agenda. Mine ended at 10.
Gotcha. I'll take a look at it. That might be,
Just so you know.
appreciate it. We'll figure it out. That will conclude, council. I'm going to go back to the audience. Would you like, since you're the only one here, you already spoke? All right, cool. All right, with that, I think I can safely show 6, adjourning the meeting at 8:44. Good night, Livonia.